Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Light Gate. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in the beautiful state of Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, we are on Rumble, we are on Facebook and YouTube. We have a wonderful show tonight. And before we get started, I just want to mention who our sponsor is. Yay! This is a really great thing going on for us all. Carnation, we all love you and just want to say thank you for helping us. All right. Best show of my month, week, year, maybe. I love our guest and she knows it. And I'm just going to pass right on to Preston. Let's go.
All right. Thank you, Dolly. And thank you, everyone, for joining us another Monday evening on The Light Gate, episode 82. Can't believe it. We're just booking right along. I am your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. We're so excited to have you all here tonight. So excited to have our guest, Kathleen Marden, our returning guest. She always has so much interesting information to share. So yay, it's going to be an awesome show. We love Carnation. We love all of you guys. And it's because of you we do this show. So I just want to say a quick hello and shout out to all you guys before we bring our guest on as soon as possible. I'm limited to like 5 minutes to do this, but I love it because you guys are awesome. We love interacting with you guys in chat. Get your questions in early. Michael Kennedy is bringing in the popcorn. You can't see it. It was there before, but thank you, Michael. Hope you're doing well. We've got Janice Connett. Kathleen is always a star guest. She is. She's just a lovely person, so smart, funny, and a huge contribution to this field. We got Teresa Levine. Hello, Teresa. We got Raul Melendez with an amazingly generous super chat donation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Truly appreciate it. We love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So excited, he says, about tonight's program. And that's 12 hearts, I'm guessing.
Oh my.
Thank you, Raul. Pete, happy Lightgate Monday. Welcome back, Kathleen. We have João Batista. We have Joseph A. We got Scuba Maru. And of course, we have the wonderful Namaste, who we can always count on. Namaste. What can I say other than we love you? Thank you. You have our endless gratitude. You bring a smile to my face every time I see you here. So thank you once again. We love you. Olivia, blessings of love and light from SoCal, where
Awesome.
I grew up for the most part. I miss it. The land of endless sunshine and now wildfires, apparently. The Owl Man, hello, happy Monday.
Hi.
We got Louise from New Jersey. Greetings, as is. I like it.
I like that too. Yeah.
Hope you're doing well, as is. Polly Rotterman.
Hey.
Polly, love you so much. Thank you. You are always so kind and supportive. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We got Janie Mashburn. We got Leah. And Lunar Dove made it to the live.
Cool. Yeah.
Deb from Ohio. Oh, cool. Thank you, Deb. Susan C. says greetings. We got Jay Kirschman from Virginia.
Nice. We know where that is.
Beautiful. Yeah, we drove through there not too long ago. Yep. Dana Matthews.
Hey, Dana.
And Leah's already got a question. I'm going to put a little slide next to there. So I don't lose that. And who else we have? We have Teresa Levine. We have Flubber Lane. We have John Schaefer's. Nice big crowd. You guys are awesome. I better get going because I don't think I'm going to make it through this whole list. There's so many of you. Hi, Adrian. Hello, Octopus with no friends. Maybe some friends someday.
Yes. You got friends. You got friends. That's right.
Okay, who else we have? We have Denise Olinger. We have CT Guitar Guy and Janie Mashburn. We have Denise. Holidays are made for Carnation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm hearing an echo.
No, it's my bloody phone decided to turn on again.
Oh.
Turn on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Kaleidoscope Eyes. We got Adrian Unleashed and Bartle B. Grinmere. Oh, wait. Let me go back to Adrian Unleashed. You guys are the greatest. The real deal.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. We got Billy Marks. We have Audrey Miller. Aloha. You guys, I love this one. Equestrian Chic. I love these little monikers you guys have. Pip Dennison, hi from Australia.
Hello.
We got Nancy from San Francisco.
Love it.
Holly Wallace and Patsy Foister. You guys are amazing. We do a lot of advertising for the show, so it's awesome to see so many of you guys showing up. Okay, Coconut Luck, another great name.
Okay.
We have Chris, the lovely teen.
Right.
And Bim Jim. We got Randy of the Redwoods. I love the Redwoods.
Nice. Yeah.
We have Rick Schatz from Connecticut. And Leah is popping in the questions. All right. I better get started. White Dragon, all the way from South Florida.
Yep.
Yes, it's
my
time.
favorite place. Yeah.
It's time to get going, guys.
Okay.
So I do have the ticker for our guest tonight. Let me just provide you with a quick introduction for those of you who might be new, who might not have heard of Kathleen. I hope you have, because boy, oh boy, she's got a lot of books. She's been in this field forever. She's amazing. She is an experiencer herself. She's an author. She's a researcher. We're very happy to have Kathleen Marden back on the show. Her interest began way back in 1961 when, as you may know, her aunt and uncle, the amazing Barney and Betty Hill, had a close encounter and an onboard experience in the New Hampshire's White Mountains. And Kathleen, being a direct family member, has direct knowledge of this encounter literally on the day they arrived home and visited them 2 days later. She's devoted years to the painstaking investigation of that amazing watershed event that changed UFO history forever. So she is the trustee of Betty's estate. She's still working on this. This is going to be an endless research project, I think, but did write the seminal book on this case, captured the Betty and Barney Hill UFO experience, along with Stanton Friedman. I'm sure you all know the great Stanton Friedman, another truly objective and pioneering researcher, very well respected. That book, by the way, was recently updated in 2021, so check that out. Since 1991, Kathleen's volunteered for the Mutual UFO Network in various positions, including Director of Field Investigator Training and Founder-Director of the MUFON Experience Resource Team. MUFON's amazing. I'm still a field investigator. I don't work directly with them, but I still support them. Over a 10-year period, Kathleen has expanded her ER team from 3 members to 45. That's a lot. These are trained and seasoned specialists, including people with PhDs and MDs, people with real knowledge, scientific knowledge that can be applied to UFO research, which is exactly what we need. Additionally, Kathleen has sat on the Edgar Mitchell Free Advisory Board and worked on 3 studies involving nearly, get this, 5,000 experiencers. So we'll hopefully be talking about some of that tonight. The Marden Stoner Edgar Mitchell Free MUFON ERT. She's presently working on this, the Marden-Barton Survey of Religious Beliefs and Extraterrestrial Life. This is available on her website. She's been on at least 55 television shows. Oh my God, Kathleen. That's amazing. And countless radio shows and podcasts, lectured across the U.S. and to audiences in foreign countries, co-authored numerous books and articles, some of which have been translated into foreign language. She's the recipient of 2 major awards, MUFON and the International UFO Congress. Those are both the big ones for her years of dedicated work. And some of her books include, not limited to, The Alien Abduction Files, Forbidden Knowledge, Extraterrestrial Contact, Science Was Wrong, Fact and Fiction and Flying Saucers, True Stories of Alien Abduction, Making Contact, and more. And she has worked with co-writers, as I mentioned, Stanton Friedman and Denise Stoner, an experiencer researcher herself, who was a previous guest on this show. We're going to have to get her back too. But let me waste no more time and bring the amazing Kathleen onto the show. Hi,
Hello, Molly. Hello, Preston. Hello, everybody. Great to be back again.
Yay, it's awesome.
We're excited.
Face, you always bring joy to my to me when I see your smiling face. You're just,
After what you said about me, I think my head is expanding in size.
It should, Kathleen. Come on, you deserve the accolades.
Unbelievable researcher, and you've gone many, many miles throughout all this time, and you've been very steadfast. That's honorable to my estimation, and amazing to my great understanding of who you are. I mean, oh my heaven, you're good at what you do, and that's a really good thing, you know.
Well, thank you. I'm very curious, and I have a strong background in social science, and took classes in physics and chemistry and biology and science classes as well, the philosophy of science. So I know a little bit about that too.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Everybody had that in their minds to do. Yeah, it's awesome. Yep.
So there's a lot going on in ufology today. It's an interesting time to be involved in this field. So did you watch the hearings? I'm curious.
I did. Yes. I always have to at least watch to see what's the intelligence community is allowing those who are testifying under oath to say. It's censored in advance. What they can say is pre-approved.
Right.
Exactly.
I think that since David Grush testified, they've clamped down.
It looks like it.
100%.
I have to say, it's good news that they're actually talking. I mean, they're holding hearings, which is something.
Yes, it's better than not talking.
As they're allowing into the
lying.
They let a report in that is unauthored. Nobody knows what the citations are on it or who did it exactly. And yet they put that into the congressional record. And then with 3 witnesses before them who swore an oath to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, that did not go into the record. That was a committee meeting, period. They could hear it, but it's not written into the record. And this is where I start to get befuddled and unfoundedly wondering why aren't these meetings into the record? If you have a congressman sitting in the room, multiple, and just because they're on a committee doesn't mean that they're not hearing it for the congressional record. They're hearing it, but it's not being stated. And the only reason I can come up with basically is because if they did that, then there's accountability going on. Then they have to answer to it. And that's what they don't want to do. Plausible deniability has been this government's response to everything. And anything anybody says is still outside of that, And it's hard to watch that in person or even on a TV and see them jabberwocking each other. It's crazy.
I liked what Admiral Tim Gallaudet had to say. He was my favorite, I think. He was very forthright. His rhetoric was very unequivocal. We need action. That I hadn't heard before. People are just blah, blah, blah. He's like, let's do this. So what did you think, Kathleen? I'm a little bit
well, I did like his testimony as well. And what I always have to keep in mind is the fact that this is geared toward the general public. And I hope that the general public is aware of this and that they're watching it on YouTube, if not live. And so we have to be careful with the general public because for the past 70 some odd years, they've thought that anyone who reported seeing a UFO was a kook or was perceptually insufficient or deficient. And, that we had some major problems. After the Condon study, the recommendation was that the government should fund social scientists not to study UFOs, but to study observers of UFOs to try to determine why this public hysteria was going on when we all knew that it was impossible.
Yeah. All the time they knew that this was real too. So it's completely
Right.
disingenuous.
Doesn't it make you mad?
It really does. My tax dollars at work.
Their rhetoric is that only the government can talk about this, period. And so only whistleblowers within the government are sanctioned even to come forward, as they have. It is, they will never ever put a true experiencer on that committee or before Congress, because this is where the meat and guts of what the public, the everyday people in our country and the world especially, who do watch this and understand that what we're talking about. It's all accountability, and they can only handle what they consider accountability and not what's coming from the people. They're too busy handing us a con. In other words, they want us to believe their narrative, and that there's a whole group of people on the outside of this, experiencers, researchers, and people who are in the military and now out of the military and experiencing it, freelance, and who are saying, wake up. We know you know what's going on. That's the point. I mean, I would love to stand before that group and say, let's get real here. Okay, let's just understand what you really know.
Yeah, let's have an experiencer panel stand before the Congress.
Well, I agree with you, but I wonder if that will ever happen. I seriously doubt it. They're willing to discuss the nuts and bolts, but when it comes down to what's riding around inside that craft, gee, it must be operated by some kind of machine, that sort of thing.
Oh,
they go nuts about the idea that there could be non-humans inside that craft.
Yeah, because when they were asked during that hearing, what do you think UFOs are? They're all like, I don't know. It's like talking to a 5-year-old. I don't know. Right down the middle. I'm like, really? You don't know?
They're trying to admit that they have bodies and craft. Okay. I mean, they're actually stating that openly now, that there are bodies and craft, but it's not written into the congressional record. And I doubt seriously, because I got to read it, that report that they did put in is foolish and not sufficient.
It was pretty interesting. They actually talked about how the craft might be actually
it's all speculation. It has no science to it whatsoever. They're not admitting to that.
But they mentioned it, which I thought was like, okay, that is a step. It's baby steps sideways is kind of how I look at it.
I don't know. I know that one thing struck me profoundly is when Lou Elizondo stated that this is a national security threat. Okay. And he's been on many shows since this hearing, and he stated that unequivocally, absolutely spreading that message.
Yeah. Well, that's the title of this book, Imminent.
And they think that they've pulled the wool, who said it? I can't remember now, but you can fool some of the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Lincoln. That was Lincoln.
And we're at that stage right now where all of the people are realizing that somebody's trying to fool me, but there's a giant number of us who can be still fooled. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that are going to react negatively to this and believe what's not true. And that's where I'm concerned. That's where in lies my greatest concern. Yeah.
Really angered me on that panel was Mr. Gold. When he said, well, these could all be from China. I'm like,
I think the military is looking at dollar signs too. And, the greater the threat, the more funding they will receive, right. The more taxes we will pay.
Right.
And, we need, our government needs to have some control out of this out of control, that group, the Pentagon.
Correct.
Budget is just, out of control as far as I'm concerned. And when these new threats are created, if they look back at history, they'll see that it is not a threat.
Correct.
Some people have been injured, some people have been burned, but not intentionally.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a real controversial aspect to all of this. But, I think just backing up to what you said, we need to start using the terminology, because is it a government cover-up or is it a military cover-up?
It's a military cover-up.
Very much so. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, one hand
how
isn't
much power do the
working.
presidents have?
Yeah. There's one hand that's telling the other hand what to do, and it's not our people that we've elected. They don't have that kind of power. It's the other side, and people need to wake up to that too.
Who aren't elected?
Eisenhower warned about this.
Yeah.
Way back in the
He did.
50s, and it's come to fruition. We should have heeded his warnings.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. So,
100%.
I'd like to talk about, you put out this book here with Stanton Friedman, the UFO cover-up. You've done a lot of research into all of this. So maybe we could dive a little deeper into that, like who is behind the cover-up, how this all evolved. I know you've got a lot of knowledge to share on this. And
Yes. And that is the hardcover of our book, Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers.
I love it. Okay. Nice. Okay.
I can pull that one up too.
So
I
they're
have it.
the same book, but
Okay.
one is soft cover, one was purchased by a different publisher and made into a hardcover, and they retitled it.
Ah,
Aha. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's happened to several of my books.
Wow.
okay.
We couldn't get better funding from them then. Oh my goodness. I hope that's a good thing. Wow. Okay. That's good to
Yeah.
know. Thank you.
So how far back do you think, or have you found out that this cover-up began?
Well, back into the 30s, and I'm trying to think. It was the late 30s or early 40s when Doolittle
Mhm.
was over in Sweden, Norway, Scandinavia. And he was there because people were observing landed craft, non-human entities getting out of craft in the air. They were calling them like mystery rockets and saying, oh, they must be coming from Russia. But that was not the case in all of them. And as far as I know, they didn't really find any Russian technology. And so that was sort of the start of all of this. Roswell was definitely slammed the lid down in 1947. But, that sort of prompted the military to engage in a number of studies to determine what it actually was. And the result of Project Sign was that it appeared not to be from any country on this planet, that the technology was far superior to anything that anyone had here. But then they had to have Project Grudge, where they took, and the name implies the outcome. They sure had a grudge against Sign. And so they dismissed everyone. The first Project Sign was very well done by a number of scientists, military people who were scientists. But then they dismissed all but a couple, and they went through and just identified everything as something else. And, then we went into naming it Project Blue Book. And when that started, initially, there was kind of Edward Ruppelt, who was the director, did a serious study on UFOs and done at the Battelle Memorial Institute.
Right.
discovered that in the first study that over 26% were true unknowns. Then another study was done, and Stanton used to talk about that almost every time he talked. Project Blue Book Special Report number 14, in which it was 21.5% that were true unknowns of more than 3,000 cases that they looked at. They even did chi-square analyses to make sure that the data was really accurate. And every one that was put into that category as a true unknown had to be put in that category by the 3 scientists who voted. So it was really a highly legitimate study. But then, not too long ago, when the government released all of these studies that they're finally telling the public about, they lied about every single one of them.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, that all they did was give us false reports.
They had to, because they weren't just studying what you're talking about. Sweden is, Långebyn, Svalbard is where the seed depository is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were watching the poles starting to move even then. They knew that something was happening, and they started studying it. And ET was trying to draw their attention to it. They were trying to get them to prove to themselves the things that they were transmitting to them, and trying to tell us as a generation all the way back then that we had stuff coming at us and we need to pay attention. One of them is that our poles were going to change. We were in the process of it. It's beginning. Okay. And we needed the data to prove that, go back and forth. One of the reasons they went to the moon was to prove that data. Okay. And there's a lot of reasons why. They couldn't tell that to the public. They couldn't leave that data in there with all of that. And they created another
could have.
No, they created another report entirely, and it was all.
I'm all for truth and transparency. If there's a problem, let's all deal with it.
I know, but you have to understand that when you're in control of something and you've got that kind of power, and then you see something coming at you that scares the living tar heels out of you because it's that advanced, and your first prerogative is to worry about whether you're going to lose that power or not, whether you're going to become a little fish in a giant pond instead of a big fish in a little pond. This is human psychology at work here, and they couldn't stand it. They would rather take what we have here. Oh yeah, it does, especially for those who want power and want to run and control everything. And the ETs were not trying to control us. They were trying to warn us to take control of our situation and deal with it. They dealt with it, but only in the way that they deemed was going to happen. And they made a lot of decisions then going forward. And this plan has been in place for a long time, more than 80, 90 years, where humanity is about to get shocked with a lot of things that are coming at him, and a lot of people aren't going to understand what's happening at all.
My attitude is if these government intelligence, military folks, they're handling it. If they can handle it, we can handle it.
No,
a lot of them aren't handling it well.
No, I watched that myself live in person. They're not handling it well, not at all.
So going back to Blue Book, I remember reading that some of the best reports never even made it to Blue Book. The ones that really were evidential went straight to, I think it was the Air Technical Intelligence Command.
Yeah, it went to the CIA's division.
Okay.
The Foreign Technology Division.
Yep.
And that was when the decision was made. I'm trying to think of my time frame here. In 1952, because we had UFOs over Washington, D.C., that had been flying up and down the East Coast that year, that were seen as far away as Japan. So there was a lot of public interest in UFOs. And then, of course, we had the craft over Washington that was on radar twice, 2 weeks apart, and fighter pilots went out and so it was big time. It made the news, and certain members of the military became distressed by this. The ones who think it's all demons, and so they had to do something about it. So the CIA-funded Robertson panel met in January of 1953 to do something about it. And that's when they made the decision that they wanted to take the aura of mystery away from the public by giving the public false explanations for all of this. And then they would hire prominent scientists, such as Donald Menzel, to come forward and through deductive reasoning make up some logical explanation for what it could have been instead of what it was. So this went on for many, many years, and UFO investigative groups were viewed as being subversive, and they're being watched. They've been watched historically.
Yep. I have a question for you. Do you remember a publication that came out? It was called ICE, way back, like in the late 50s. And it made it into the 60s because I held a copy of it in my hand and read it. But then
I don't think so.
Disappeared. Oh.
Yeah, it was a book, right?
Yes, it was a book, and it was called ICE. And it was the exact thing that we're going through right now with our solar system and what's happening to our sun. And they took it off the shelves. They destroyed all of them. They got as many copies of it as they could. You can't find it anywhere. It's buried in the Library of Congress. It officially doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? And it's like only a few people know that of its existence. And it told the truth. That's why they pulled it out. And the reason I was made privy to it is my father made sure I understood what was going on. And that was his way of helping me get through understanding, because he did not want me to be lied to by anybody. And it was imperative that I start hearing the truth at that age. I was very young. And it's just one of the things. And then they came up with global warming, and it's just gone from there. And it's annoying as heck. And they've demonized UFOs. And they go out of their way to get to people to help them think that it's demonization. And they have operatives everywhere, And I wish there was a way that we could consolidate the truth. And the only way to do that is literally to bring in every experiencer you can get your hands on and have everybody sit down, write down what the key points of their contact and start doing some data on it and go back for proof, go back for the real meat and guts of every single one of them until you get a really clear picture of what's going on from that perspective. The government would never do it, not in a heart attack, because they already know the answer to that. And that's why they demonized all of us. If you're psychic, you're weird. If you have a story, you're mentally ill,
Right.
People who could hear things were living on the streets because they ruined their lives, and they were wearing tinfoil on their heads, and they were demonized for that too, and made to look foolish and stupid. What they were trying to do was blurt out government EMF transmissions or, attacking them.
Blue Book's go-to is to explain all encounters, all of them, as hoaxes, hallucinations, misperceptions, or mental illness. That's it.
Although only like 3%, according to special report number 14, fell into that category.
Yeah, figure that out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hynek himself, who was part of Blue Book, did not have many nice things to say about it.
Yeah. And here's another good one for you. I watched them scrub the internet of proof. Anybody who was out there with a camera, with a VHS, VCR, digital, whatever, real film, is deleted off the internet. There are things that I know were there. Okay. 2 of them I published myself, and they're gone. They're gone forever. They will never come back. They're dumping data right now, metadata right now. Ask yourself why. A lot of people who do podcasts and stuff are realizing that we can't put our stuff in cache anymore. There's no more backups for anybody. They're destroying all of them. They're erasing a giant piece of history right now, and people are totally unaware of that, and it's disturbing to know that that's happening right now. you know?
Yes, I didn't know that it was happening, and it is disturbing.
Yeah, it is. I can show you some reports. No kidding.
So
It's
the government official, when I say government UFO studies, there's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes, going way back. But we have
Right.
Blue Book, then we had the Robertson panel, and then there was the Condon Committee, and that was it for
Yes,
decades. Condon Committee, what a joke that was.
that was a huge joke. The military, I did a tremendous amount of research for that book, for Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers, or the UFO cover-up, whichever one. It's the same book.
Yeah.
But archival research, and discovered that Robert Lowe, who was in charge really of running the Condon Project, Ed Condon, wasn't that interested in it. He was doing other things. So Robert Lowe had to meet with military officers before they even began the study and take orders for what the military wanted to accomplish. The military didn't want it to be known that they were funding that project. But it did come out that they were. They had to admit that.
Yeah.
But they wanted to make it look like it was civilian kind of research. And although there were many good cases that were evaluated, it was Edward Condon who, in the end, ended up making the statement that there is no reason to believe that we will be visited by life from elsewhere in our solar system for the next 10,000 years.
How did you come up with that? I would be interested to know. That's a very specific number. That's interesting.
Yes.
What,
So funny about the Condon
I don't
Committee
yeah.
is
Wow.
the famous Lowe memo that got leaked out.
Yes. Yeah. The trick memo, discovered by David Saunders, who was the chief investigator for the Condon Project. And Robert Lowe had written that memo. He was became close friends with Philip Klass. And Philip Klass was, the most prominent disinformant regarding the UFO presence of the 20th century. He's a very nasty guy. And he worked with Robert Lowe, was sending him information, even sent a proposal to Edward Condon saying that he would be willing to fund a study if they could create fake pictures of UFOs and try to make them look as much like real pictures as they could. And Ed Condon, Dr. Condon, wrote back to Philip Klass and said, "Oh, we can't have you fund that. That would not be ethical. We will fund it ourselves." So when investigators get confused about what picture is real and what picture is fake, it's because of Philip Klass's idea.
Yeah.
Boy.
And he was also strongly pushing the idea of plasma studies, that all of these sightings were the result of plasma.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you're going to run a con, you need a little bit of truth. Okay. Mm-hmm. A little bit of truth. And then you can run the con, because it'll all come back to that one thing. And the number one thing that I can tell you about ET and craft is that they run plasma around them when they're fully charged. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're running high energy on them. They have a plasma field, like a huge one, and it's undeniable. And you know exactly what it is. And it changes color with environment. In other words, there are different particles in our atmosphere, and plasma will react with those particles and change color. And depending on where they come in atmosphere and anywhere in the world, that's going to be a different color. That's why other countries see them not all white as they're coming in atmosphere. They'll see them in orange. We're predominantly orange.
What causes angel hair too.
Yeah, and things like that.
Substance that comes down.
There's a true science of it. And it amazes me that they get one word or one concept that it is true, and they say, okay, we'll run with this, but we're going to run the narrative our way. And as you said, use any sort of weird theoretical, conjuring to come up with a story. That's where they got global warming from as well, because they knew with what's coming at us that our environments were going to change drastically, and they knew why, but they didn't want you to know why. They wanted to blame it all on us. And they had reasons for that because they want to control the situation, and they have done it brilliantly, as a matter of fact. It's sad to me how brilliantly. And
now, weren't all the cases for the Condon study drawn from Blue Book?
They were drawn from Blue Book, but Blue Book wasn't told really in advance that it should submit its best cases.
Right.
So it was, Blue Book was kind of lazy when when I read about it. They part of the reason they wanted the cover-up is they didn't want to have to spend the time talking to the media about it. They didn't want to have press conferences. So
which is kind of what its whole function.
Let's make it all go away.
It's funny, when I first started doing research, I was, very young, 21. And my dad was in the movie business and doing a Starman the series. And he had a consultant, Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Wilmore. He's like, Preston, you got to interview this guy. He's got knowledge about Blue Book. I'm like, okay, this is my first recorded interview I ever did with a lieutenant colonel, it turns out. And so I get him on the phone. Mind you, I'm pretty much a kid. My brother's hammering on the wall in the background. Kids are screaming. And I'm like, everyone shut up. I'm on the phone with a lieutenant colonel. And I recorded it, of course. I record all my interviews. I was so disappointed, Kathleen. He's like, oh, I worked right next to Project Blue Book. They were right next door to me. I talked with the guys. Do you think UFOs are real? You're totally naive. It's people who believe they're snake oil salesmen. I mean, he started he tried so hard to push me off.
It away. Yeah. I have a question about this. I want everybody to think critically about this, okay? If it doesn't cross your mind, I want it to. Blue Book came out. Everybody knew about Blue Book, and everybody who was an experiencer, anybody who had anything to say about it, started contacting Blue Book. You got to bet your money on that. It did happen. And one of the reasons they had to be blasé about it is they had tons and tons and tons of data coming at them. And you got to understand that Blue Book was a front for another side of data gathering. Okay. And you need to figure out which one it is. There are two. Okay. Right now we have 3 or 4 that they're all denying everything and saying, oh, well, we need to do the research, but they've already done it. And they're not telling you the truth about that. And it's annoying because how many people sent those reports in? How many people reported to MUFON? How many people reported to ARA? And where are all those records? Where are the records? Well, how many people has anybody sat down and calculated how many people worldwide, because people were calling from France, Sweden, Poland, you name it, into these areas, and these numbers, they're public. How many? I want to know the answer to that. I want them
How many reports have been made worldwide?
Yeah, into Blue Book. It's substantial. How about NASA? NASA took reports. Everybody took reports.
That's a good question, because MUFON and NUFORC have well over 200,000 documented cases.
That you know about. Yeah. There's 8 billion people on the planet.
Let alone, yeah.
Okay. The numbers don't add up.
I don't know that that's ever been, God, I don't even know how you could find that out.
When I was the director of MUFON's experiencer research team, we were receiving 80 to 100 a month. But then as the team grew and became very well known around the world, we were receiving up to 150 reports a month. Wow. So, I mean, a substantial number of reports were registered.
And was that your district, or was it countrywide?
Worldwide, yeah.
That was worldwide. I was the national and international director.
Cool. What year was that?
DRT. And well, it was in 2011 when MUFON asked me to form this group.
Wow.
the
Do you
ERT.
realize that MUFON was taking reports when I was a kid? Literally.
Yeah.
I reported to MUFON.
What,
I
60?
literally reported to MUFON when I was 14, and I put that report in on purpose.
Did anyone reply or investigate?
No, and it disappeared. So I did it 3 more times over the years, and they've all disappeared. They're gone.
It's not unusual for substantial reports to disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem with UFO research is there is a cover-up.
Yeah.
Look at what happened to APRO in NICAP. And NICAP had a real problem.
Well, I came to the conclusion that I needed to protect the people who were making reports. The
Exactly.
data was okay, but the name, the address, the phone number, the intimate narrative was
Right.
not okay, in my opinion.
They were
And-
targetable at that point. You shouldn't do that. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, we were more for support, understanding, referrals to support groups or hypnotherapists who believed this was real, who had the credentials, and that sort of thing. But then I left that position in 2021. And the team continued to grow and thrive until 2024. And that is when, I think it was 2024, when MUFON decided to take a new nuts and bolts investigative approach. And so we were on a separate arm, a support arm. We were made little and put on the investigative arm as secondary investigators, so that people in the ERT could only speak to an experiencer after some other field investigator had done a full investigation. And
Wow.
yeah, that was a big change.
You would think an emergency response team would be the first ones on the property.
Well, absolutely.
And that they would be the ones taking
people
all
who
everything.
Who were compassionate. That's the thing, is you need compassionate people who have a tremendous amount of knowledge about what occurs,
Right.
how these people feel.
Right.
And instead, you get a field investigator who's looking for physical evidence and is going to make a case disposition based upon the UFO.
Right. It's weird. Okay, if you think about this logically, you get an emergency response team in there, first of all, to keep them from trampling evidence, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To help them understand what's going on, give them the emotional support that they need. This is valid. We're getting into this. Keep everybody calm and corralled until a team does come out there then and gets all the physical evidence. If you do forensic work for the police, that's exactly what happens. You get to the people first, you get them to the hospital, you get them whatever they need, and then the other teams come in behind them, but they keep everybody out of the scene to protect evidence. Okay.
It's just like a normal police investigation.
Exactly. And they're doing it, backwards. And I could say it another way, but I'm not going to.
And those who need support, who want support, might not be referred to the ERT. Very few are being referred to the ERT.
Wow.
Well, that's what's so important about investigators like you, is because not only do you have the knowledge, but you have firsthand experiential knowledge. You do know what it's like to have.
I've worked with so many, plus I'm an experiencer.
Right. And experiencers can lose information if they're put down or ignored. Okay. They internalize everything at that point, and their brain, they just start losing information right off the bat. And somebody going in can help them retain what just happened to them by keeping them calm, walking them through it, getting them to retell now, write it down, write me a report, give me information so that it's still there. And this person doesn't need to be hypnotized later. They've got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you wait 3 or 4 days to get to an experiencer, that information is going to be half gone off the top. Okay. And then they're going to freak out even more, because now they can't remember, and they're going to blame it on all kinds of stuff because of misinformation and disinformation about what an experiencer goes through. I mean, you you know,
Well,
Kathleen, as well as I do, that there's a lot of stuff going on during an experience and then right afterwards. And being able to put it out there, write it down, get it off your chest, let somebody hear you, look you in the eye so that you can lock and load that memory where it ought to be locked and loaded to, and not being thrown to the side and discounted. See?
right. And
Gaslighting.
that
That's
our
what Marvel
team
says. Yep.
taught experiencers how to collect their own evidence,
Right.
how to document their
Right.
own evidence, because you might not receive a report right away.
Right.
And we started out as an investigative team, and then the state directors were very possessive of their cases, so they did not want our team. So then, as the director, I was saying, oh, well, what are we going to do now? Do we dissolve the team because MUFON doesn't want it? And they said, no, become supportive. You're a support team. So experiencers can speak with you for support. And so that's what we did, confidential support for many years, plus that major research study
Right.
that we worked on, and with 2 PhD psychologists who were part of it. And it worked out well. We were helping experiencers. And that's what I cared most about, because I've seen so many people suffer.
Right.
Not only were, they experiencing ontological shock over what they had just seen, since they'd been told for years by our government and our media that it simply wasn't true. And then they go to report it. They're curious. They want help. They really want help. And what happens is that they are faced with interrogation, with disbelief.
Right.
I've talked to so many people who were told they needed to go see a psychologist. My heart broke, and still breaks, for people who have to go through that kind of treatment. It's inhumane, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, this is totally the fault of this cover-up, honestly. Now, going back to Blue Book, this case, I don't know why it keeps popping back into my mind. There was a Lieutenant Long driving through Nevada one evening and came upon 3 landed saucers. This guy had just gone through flight training. He was a very educated individual. Blue Book didn't want to hear about it. They basically assigned a psychologist to see if they could find anything wrong with this officer. Mm-hmm. That was the extent of the investigation. This is one that Hynek specifically mentioned in his later books, like, Blue Book is not okay. And I remember there was another case in the Condon Committee that James McDonald submitted, and he called it the perfect case. It was in New York because there were 3 pilots who saw it, and it was on radar, and there was a ground observer. It was an undeniable case. And I think it was Frank Thayer or something who said, oh, it's radar propagations. Nothing to see here. So these are the 3 major studies. And we have had no movement for decades, right. And now it's changed. So what happened? Why did we suddenly have some movement, do you think? About 5 years ago, was it?
What, in 2017, you mean, when the New York Times article came out, December 16th, 2017?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal.
Right.
And one other person. And that was big news. That started all of this, I think. Here on the front page, I think it was the front page of the New York Times, was this article about the cover-up, about UFOs, about the Tic Tac, about the radar evidence, about and David Fravor. I don't know if his name was in that article, but he came forward after that. He was piloting the plane that saw the Tic Tac, and just some remarkable information about its flight pattern, about precognition, in a sense, that the craft knew before the Navy knew what the program or the plan, the training program was all about. They were on a war game, I believe it was, and where they were going to be going to. So the Tic Tac met them there. And they couldn't figure that one out.
That's kind of interesting.
Yes. And things started happening to military officers who were part of this in their personal lives, becoming more intuitive, for example. Also, that Tic Tac ended up dropping. Well, I think it was that one. There was one that was hovering for 12 hours at 80,000 feet, and then it dropped to like 20,000 or 40,000 feet, and then it dropped to 50 feet above the churn, is what David Fravor said. And there was another object under the water that was the size of a battleship. And the Tic Tac sort of was like a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth.
Yeah,
it was communicating.
It was communicating, and they do it on purpose so everybody sees it. This is not for no reason whatsoever. They were making a point. That's the whole point of this, is that they were making statements by doing what they were doing. There's another one in Israel that everybody got on film, where there was one right over the top of the Dome of the Rock. Okay, and then it did an energy pulse and went straight up and was out of sight in less than a second.
Yeah,
and it was
caught on multiple cameras, by the way.
In front of it, right. And do you hear about that anymore? Find it on the internet. Okay.
I put it on my Facebook page. It's there.
Yeah. And yet the Israelis are not allowed to talk about that because they had their military watching that as well. And they have full reports about it, but they don't talk either. Because they're restricted from saying anything. And
maybe that's why I got put in Facebook jail. It was about
maybe. I mean, you have to be careful what you're looking at and what and where and why. I also want to bring something else up. The camera footage that they have is the worst camera footage I've ever seen. Okay. It is their gunnery cameras. They're not color. They're black and white. They're choppy. They're not the full complement of cameras. They've got at least 8 other cameras on board those craft, those jets, in full color, HD, 1060p. Okay. Can see gnats on the side of it. Okay. If they're there. And yet they don't show you that information. They don't show you what they were really doing.
Yeah. They said they had the most advanced technology in the world.
Of course they do. That's right.
But what we saw wasn't that.
No,
apparently.
They don't
All
watch
right.
it.
I need to take a quick station ID break. Still got lots more to discuss, guys, but we are at the top of the hour. I'd like to remind you all that you are watching The Lightgate. This is episode 82. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. Our amazing guest is Kathleen Marden, experiencer, researcher, author of many books. We've been talking all about the UFO cover-up mostly, it's the recent congressional hearings, Project Blue Book, the Quantum Committee, all kinds of interesting things. Still have another hour to go. I'm flagging your questions, so keep them coming. I hope to get to them shortly. Do want to let you know that we are streaming live on several platforms. We are streaming live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. We are on Roku, so check us out if you have Roku. We're on YouTube. We are on Rumble. Multiple platforms, so that's very exciting. Big shout out to Carnation. We love you so much. We really appreciate your support. It's awesome. So thank you. And thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, we still got another hour to go. We'll never get to all the information, Kathleen, that is with this subject. I mean, it's just
just have to read my books. There's a lot more in this book.
Because there's just no way you can get all the knowledge that's in one book or even a chapter. Let's face it. in a show like this, but we can try. But it sure is interesting to see what's happening, because all three of those studies that I mentioned, Blue Book, Conning Committee, the Robertson panel, came to their conclusions, and we know what they are. UFOs aren't real. There's no security threat. Shut up. You're lying. You're hoaxing. You're hallucinating. You're misperceiving. You're mentally ill. That's what they all found. No, that's different. You're probably still mentally ill. You're probably still lying. But we think it might be real. I mean, it's exhausting. This is exhausting. I'm not giving up. But it's moving. I don't know. Are we ever going to get disclosure? Where do you think this is leading?
They're going to disclose. They're going to disclose that it's a national security threat. Period. They're already using that terminology. They're already showing certain elements in the government, and whistleblowers and everybody are starting to heavily allude to that, and it's going to become a thing. Seriously. It already is. I mean, if Lou Elizondo is sitting in front of a congressional committee and he's stating that, point blank stating that, and then goes on many podcasts and states that, and in his opinion, it is a national threat, security threat, that is serious business. And you have to ask yourself why. Why are you going to these links? What is your problem? And totally discounting what everybody else says. It's only the government's talking. No experiencer gets to talk. No researcher gets to talk. Nobody with half a scientific brain on them and knows what's really going on in our solar system and our world with our sun is able to talk. Stephen Greer keeps trying to talk, but he's not even telling the whole story either. And that's disconcerting as well. Everybody needs to get on the same page before they disclose. That's my opinion. That's my plea to everybody to start thinking about it. Get off your and start disclosing to everybody you know. If you've got something to say, say it. Write it down. Make a book. Whatever it takes. We need to disclose. We need to take over their rhetoric, because they're not going to listen to us, and they bloody better start listening to us. That's what I think.
Yeah. The media has started to bring in disinformants. Yep. To go on at the end of a show. Right. For about 10 years, we had the truth without disinformants. Now right. We have disinformants. There's a movie being made about Betty and Barney Hill, where the conclusion is going to be that it was a folie à deux, where,
no.
Even though Ben Simon considered that possibility and discounted it because they didn't have the characteristics. There's a movie that's going to lead everyone to believe that is what happened. And it makes me mad as hell.
Me too.
This kind of thing.
What about Betty's dress? What about the spots on the car? What about all Barney's scuffed shoes?
What about all the evidence? There was a book written recently by a religious scholar who stated there was absolutely no evidence. I mean, I have to drop my teeth on something like that, because it is such a huge lie.
Right, I agree.
I'm still battling people who say there's zero evidence that UFOs are real or ETs are visiting us. I'm like, well, there's thousands of landing trace cases. There's implant removals. There's all the medical evidence. 300 plus cases of healings. For just starting, yeah, the evidence is there. The photographic, the radar return evidence. The military has that.
Right. They're never going to show it.
Yeah, Kathleen, it's exhausting.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm so sorry that's going to happen. I have a question. I've never looked at this, and I'm going to ask you outright. What were the drawings that they made of the craft that they saw? What did it look like? Can you describe the craft by your aunts talking to you about it?
Yes. I'm trying. I could show you a picture.
Okay.
Of the craft that Barney sketched. Should be in my book here. Right there. He sketched this on the morning that they arrived home. After their close encounter and what they found out, I think they sort of knew all along they'd been abducted.
Yeah.
And the top one shows the way it looked when it was about 200 feet above their vehicle.
Yeah.
And then the bottom one is how it looked as he was standing in the field, and he could see the non-human standing in the windows. And then at that point, it was about 100 feet overhead.
Yeah. You realize that my craft that I fly looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have pictures of it. Okay. Moving film video of it. Those are good renditions. Whatever aspect he's at, he's a boomerang. Okay. And he does have latches, hook-ons. His type of craft, there can be 50 of them and they can all hook together and make it like one gigantic craft. When you look at him in different ratios, when he's turning, sometimes he looks like a Chevy, and his joke is to put on Chevy lights in the front, or he can erase sideways and do running lights all across or around on his sides, and show people different aspects of himself that way. When he's in moonlight and you can really see his skin, you see that he's got a top dome when he's sideways that looks Egyptian. It's like you see the top dome, and then it goes up like a turtleback in the back, like Egyptian helmets. And you wonder where they got that idea from. That is Talata's type. That is his class of craft that they saw. And I wanted this opportunity to bring that up because I can show you personally pictures of Talata, and you are going to lose your mind, okay? Because that's him. It's not him, but it's his class of craft.
I would love to see those
pictures
because I know what they look like.
Yeah. I'll give you another reference to them. You know the turkey footage? 3 years?
Yes.
There it is. Whoop, there it is. That's him. That's him. Yep.
From that case of mine in North Carolina, I was looking through the photographs from the video just last week, and one of the photographs looked exactly like the one from Turkey.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was the mantis type. I'm not talking about the ET type.
Yeah.
I mean the gray type.
Yeah. I'm getting Mike Schratt to do the specs on Talata. We're going to start sitting down, and he's going to help me render him out for everybody to see what he actually exactly. It's time that people see this. There is nothing on this planet, back engineered or otherwise, that looks like that, even comes close to it. And there's a reason for that. They couldn't build that if they tried. Okay. And it is amazing to me. Yeah. That, when the turkey footage came out, it was 2008, 2009. And once it hit the internet, they scrubbed it. They pulled it down and started erasing huge parts of that film. You only get little teeny chunks of it, not the entire hours and hours worth of film that the guy had. Mm-hmm. Also, it's disturbing to me what lengths that they'll go to get to the people that were involved with this as well, scrubbing information from it or trying to change it and redirect the narrative. And it's amazing to me how they're, and I know that what happened is happening to you with your aunt and uncle as far as filmography goes, that I'm looking at probably the same thing coming at me, what I'm saying. And it is disturbing, and there's a reason for it. And I want everybody to research this, what I've said in the past, what I'm saying now. I want you all to think about what I'm telling you and teaching you, to go look, for this information before they pull it completely off the net. I know somebody on the net who suspicious observers, Ben Davidson, they're about to attack him too. He's trying, he wasn't a real big UFO wanting to talk about it, but now he's got somebody who's come out to his ranch and spoken about it, an experiencer and film, he's starting to wake up to the fact that maybe I better do something before this gets worse out of hand than it is.
I feel like the cover-up is having its last gasp. I mean, there's just no way. There's too much truth. There's too many experiencers.
I hope you're right. I really do. But the only way that's going to happen is for every experiencer on this planet to step up to the plate and join hands and say, excuse me, you're going to listen to us. You're going to stop directing your stuff toward the public and owning and being the only authors of this information. Disinformation is what it is. And letting the real people who really do see this and experience it, come forward and have their say. And there are plenty of people in the government who are afraid to come forward, those that are outside of it now, because of the threats that they get about it as well. I mean, we all just need to say enough is enough is enough. And I wish everybody would find that you don't need to be in fear of what these people can do. If we all stand up at one time, they are in trouble with this. They have no recourse at that point.
So what do you think, Kathleen, is ultimately I get asked this question all the time. Why cover it up? Why are they covering it up? There's multiple reasons.
I think that there are several reasons for that. One is their fear of public hysteria over it, which, we've been conditioned over the past 70 years to not have the kind of reaction that they might have had back in the 30s or 40s if this information was revealed.
Do you think that was deliberate, though? Do you think that that's the reaction they want and they're milking it until they get it?
Could be.
No, you think about that.
Well, I don't know. That's one of their excuses, and it has been.
Well,
for a
that's
long
their
time.
excuse. But if it dawns on somebody,
There are other things that are more logical than that. I said that I thought there were several reasons.
okay,
Other reasons were they're in bed. There's the military industrial state, and a lot of people are making a lot of money back engineering or attempting to back engineer parts of craft, clothing,
all their technology,
their technology.
Right.
And, so that's highly lucrative, and they don't want to give away any of that information.
How do you think that we would react as a people globally to finding out that they've been absolutely lying and how they've been gutting us of resources and gutting us of time and gutting us emotionally over this and taking from us everything they want to serve their purpose? How do you think we're all going to react if we find out the truth of that?
They may fear that we're going to withdraw their funding.
Yeah. Or not. Yeah.
That could
that's
be
the
a
ET threat
big
right there.
threat. Yes. And then there's the religious threat for, those people in the Pentagon who are fundamentalist, foaming at the mouth Christians, and think that all of this is demonic.
I know.
And they want to cover it up because, they just want everyone to drop to their knees and beg for forgiveness.
Yeah, well, that's what a slave does. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay? You put a slave on their knees with the threat of the lash, and they'll do anything you want them to do. All right. And unfortunately, that's how I see religions on this planet. They've had long enough to develop that whip rather well. And people actually will bend down on knee and say that they have, no reason to be here, that they're only waiting to go, and that they have a savior without doing any spiritual work on their own or any understanding or knowing all that is knowable. I mean, what's the point of being here if you're going to be tortured your whole life with the threat of sinning, and the only way you can get off this planet out of sin is to believe one person, okay?
Or just to go to church on Sunday and you'll be absolved of all the sins you committed during the week.
If you make one true statement, nobody can live up to that. There's no human being anywhere on our side or the other side of this veil that can live up to that. Nobody. And the book's been rewritten 10,000 times. Even the Torah has been manhandled and changed from time to time, the Kabbalah, all of it. It is sad to me that we don't realize how many people are manipulating this stuff and mind washing and goading us into taking for real what is not from deity, but from man. We're causing our problems. We're the authors of all of this.
Yes. And this is one reason that I'm doing this study with Dr. Melanie Barton-Bragg, the Marden Barton survey on religious belief and extraterrestrial life. And anyone, whether they're an experiencer or a non-believer or member of the public, fundamentalist Christian, whatever, can take this. And it's pretty quick to take. But she's an ordained minister, actually, but she's spiritual now, so she can't work in the ministry. It just doesn't feel right. But she is
waking up. We're all psychic people. We have the equipment to be as psychic as we want to be. We have the ability to know what the truth is and to become more than we are, to evolve. And it's our birthright. And we're autonomous beings. Nobody has the right to tell you or talk you out of it or poison you so that you can't use it. Nobody.
Exactly.
And yet that's what's occurring.
So what are some of the more interesting things you're finding out with this study?
Well, we're going to reveal all of that when we have 1,000 participants, and we're up at 950. So I hope that everyone listening tonight will go to Kathleen-Marden.com. You can see it right there on the screen in front of you, and take that survey so that we can finally analyze the results and get that information out to everybody.
Cool.
Melanie and I have been studying the history of religions, of ancient religions, the ancient texts, and up to today. And boy, it's really fascinating.
Right.
Well, I'm eager to hear that, because this, our belief system does play a huge role in how we perceive all of this. I've interviewed a lot of people who are devoutly religious, and
yes,
as often as not, people are very strong in their faith. Mm-hmm. But I find it very interesting that often people will sort of move a little bit beyond just the confines of strict, organized, fundamentalist, if you will, religion, mm-hmm. and open it up to a more spiritual outlook. Because there's something about the UFO experience that challenges you on these multiple levels. You know what I mean? Psychically, spiritually, religiously, mentally, all
Absolutely.
of it.
What we understand is largely because of the way we're raised on belief. And belief doesn't know one way or the other if it's 100% true. If you ask anybody who's religious whether they know 100% of the validity of the information that they're talking about, and they say, well, it's in the Bible. The Bible's the word of God. And it scares me because it is not what they think it is. Okay. It is not perfect. And there are people who make things up about it as well. And it's, there's a difference between believing something and knowing something. What you believe, you cannot employ. You cannot employ that truth at all yourself. When you know something, you can employ that because it's knowledge that you gain. You wear it, you use it, you utilize it, and you can employ it and do it again and again and again. It's like proving an experiment. And you can't prove religion. It's all based on faith alone and not knowing until you die. And it's frightening to me that people go their entire existence on this planet in their lifetime and don't have a clue when they go to the other side. And they have no way to know anything until they get there. So they're walking on a foundation that is not something they know, but believe. And they think that's going to hold them up to it. Well, it will, because it's not what they think here. There's not a God over on the other side with a big stick waiting to whap you out or destroy you. It's just not going to happen. So you're being welcomed into the open arms of all your family and everybody who you love. Unconditional love, period.
Yes, it's
we
love.
have that here, and yet we don't express it or employ it enough either. If we unconditionally love one another, we don't need to worry about anything because we're going to take care of one another in the way, love one another as you want to be taken care of. Those were good and true words, but then they bastardize every other piece of information around it. And it's people.
So you guys, we're at the last quarter of the show. We got a half hour. Can we start doing some questions? Because I'm seeing a lot of them.
Absolutely.
And I love the question and answer stuff. We're going to do a Q&A, guys, coming up soon enough. I think it's a month or so away, but there's some really good ones here, and I'm gonna go in order. So Leah, she got in line. Can you speak about the mantids or other insectoids? I'm sure you've run into cases of this.
Many cases of this, and there are different reports. They tend to be talked about as if they are, they're generally working with another group, either the human types or the gray types, and they tend to be perceived as being in charge of what's going on. They tend to cover their appearance up because they are not very attractive to us. They can be pretty frightening to look at. They are very scientific and very, I mean, it kind of intense when you're in their presence.
That's what I heard. Very tall.
Yeah, and tall. And I believe they have exoskeletons.
No, they do not. That
You
is
don't think so? No?
no, they're covered in
Okay.
skin, just like every other humanoid type being, sentient that's evolved. They are not. That's a myth. Not true.
Is that so?
Yeah,
Well,
they're
no,
not true.
that's just from the information that I've received from the experiencers that I've worked with.
Yeah, we have a
over
problem with
many
pareidolia.
years.
Yeah, people hear, well, it's an insectoid, and so that's in their mind. So when they see them, they go right to that. That they overlay that what they're thinking
Yeah.
onto what they're seeing, and it's really hard to get past that. With a lot of people because they don't realize that they've been programmed to see it a certain way. And the governments have a long history of putting that information out there and coloring how you see things because they know human nature. You only see what you know. That's a fact. Okay. It's hard for people to see what's really actually there because they're too busy thinking what they're thinking. We've walked away from that in the last 80 years in our educational systems. People are not taught to see what's actually there. Reality is a real big deal. They see their story is their story. Be damned. Okay. I get it's hard for me to understand how you can have your truth and I can have my truth. That's not exactly what's going on. You're seeing from your perspective what you understand and what you know. And if you've been programmed to see something a certain way, you will. So it's not your story. It's what
also hard for people to perceive sometimes when it's so scary.
Yeah.
When you're in fear.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a sketch to show you, but I guess I don't have it in this book.
Kathleen, I have a picture.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I've seen them. Well, one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right after I had surgery, it was watching me.
Mhm.
And I just happened to be talking to Preston one day after my surgery healing. And I look out the door and it's like 30 degrees outside and we got the glass outer door, so I can see outside. It's a farm. And I saw it and I was like, the hell is that? And I got up and I went to the door and that's when I saw it stand up and the phone hit the floor because my brain went, go, run, get there, And I ran out in shorts and a t-shirt, no socks, no shoes, no nothing, into a farmyard trying to chase it down. And it turned around and looked at me and it said, nope, nope. And it didn't have to run. It was walking because it was over 12 feet tall, literally over 12 feet tall. And I was like, who are you? Who are you? And in my mind, I have stuff in my head too. And I always go straight away from that and just want to see what that is. Who are you? I'm asking the questions now. I'm researching what I'm actually seeing. Okay. And he turned around and looked at me again and he said, we are the watchers, and turned around and left. I couldn't catch him. I had just had surgery. But my camera was going click, 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 click before I opened that door. Okay. And I have pictures.
I have the picture here. Give me a second and I'll pull it up. But it's going to take me a second.
Okay. Yeah, it was on a little what is it? Nokia phone, flip phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not 100%, but he was sitting, I could see his head over a stump. He was bending way down, crouching behind this giant stump. Okay. And I'm like looking at him, what the heck am I looking at? Because it doesn't look like anything I know.
Picture just went completely black. That is so odd.
Did you see very thin arms and legs with athletic looking joints, very knobby looking joints?
Yeah, but I have knobby joints too. If you see me without my clothes on, you go, where the heck did that happen? Okay. I'm very knobby. Okay. I have elbows that can kill you. Okay. That's how just jointy I am. But they're so tall.
There it is.
Okay.
Oh, whoops. Sorry.
Doesn't look like an insectoid to me.
No. They have really spade-shaped heads.
Hold on. The computer is doing weird things.
No, I'm chinning. Okay. They have a really thin chin and it looks like a mantid head. But
eyes.
Oh yeah, they got huge bloody eyes. But when they turn their head sideways, you see the globe. You can see they have a head. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they have ears that are not on the sides. They're more up here.
This is my last attempt to pull this up because for some reason the computer is not cooperating.
Oh my God.
There. You see it?
Okay. Those are not, okay. That sticks where the arrow's pointing down there. He is just standing up and his head is right underneath the arrow. It's right there. You see that head? The
Right
space
here?
in those eyes?
Mm.
This
Bigger.
here?
I can see the eyes.
No. Right
Here.
here. No. Turn
Here.
to the right. That's a stump.
This?
No. Where the other arrow is. See the head right here? Go to the right. This arrow right here on the right, go down and see the head right there. He's looking over this big old bloody stump. And I'm looking at that head and I'm going, where did you get what that? I mean, I was like, I'm farsighted. I see very, very far away. It's one of my genetic things. Okay. That's why I have to wear glasses because I can't see close up. And that's his head right there. Circle it, Preston. Nope. Go back over here. Go down. Go down. Go to the right. Right there. That you're on his nose.
Oh, okay. Here.
Shaped head and those two eyeballs.
One eyeball,
Like,
two eyeball.
yeah. He's leaning down. That's when I was going click, 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 click. And when he stood up, that's when my camera dropped because it freaked me the heck out. I was like, what? That stump is almost 4.5 feet tall. It's a very big stump. And that's him looking at me.
Very cool. All right. Well, let's go on to the next question.
I got more pictures to show you, okay? More of that.
All right. Let me see. Here's a good one from Bim Jim. Do the ETs want disclosure?
Yes.
I think so.
Absolutely. Without question, absolutely.
Yeah.
The message to you all is that we've already had disclosure. There are enough witnesses to.
How many cases do we need?
Okay, in this country alone, you probably got 100,000 people who have seen ET close up, have memories of being on board, know them.
Yeah.
Worldwide, it's even greater than that. You have schoolyards, you have games. You know why the blimp quit doing stuff? It's not because it was technology that they couldn't keep employing it. The blimp started seeing them. Okay, ET likes to show off. The Air Force won't tell you the truth about this, or Navy flyers, but ET will come above and below them and parrot them in flight. Stay with them. Every maneuver they make, they stay with them, on them, wingtip to wingtip and top and bottom. They'll even flip over above their fuselage and look at them dead in the face. The smaller craft, they have abilities that you can't. They'll fly in front of them and look back at them and go, how you doing? They've got that all on film and they're not showing it to you. And the reason that I know this is because I've done it with Toledo. We've gone after a few big jets. Okay. The F-22 was built because they have another prototype where it's now working.
Okay. Let's.
It can go up. It's crazy. Yeah. They don't show you anything.
They said that they will disclose themselves when more than half of the world's population realizes that they're here. They're not going to depend upon the government to do it.
The only time they're going to disclose now is when they come back to pick people up. We're heading for calamities that they have to deal with. They're not here right now for that reason. It's
they've given other people different information then.
Or maybe they didn't.
All right. Well, here's another interesting question, which some of these are delicate questions. So if you need to pivot, I understand. This is from John Schaefer's. So this is interesting because we were talking about religious beliefs. And he's asking, do you believe that the people in power that are fighting this are being controlled by religious beliefs? Because I have heard that some people in government are subscribed to the demonic theory.
Yes, there is evidence. And way back in the 1940s and early 50s, when they were talking about disclosure, there were people in the Pentagon who wanted it, and there were people who didn't want it. The ones who did not want it had very strong religious beliefs. And that's what we're going through right now as well.
Yeah. Did anybody watch the opening to CERN, the ceremony they had? Does anybody realize what that was?
It looked like a demonic ceremony.
Ceremony, yeah.
It had paintings and weird statues. It was dark. It was like, this does not even look like science to me. Okay, let me see. What else do we have? Here's another somewhat delicate question. I don't like talking about some of the figures in this field because everyone's got their opinion about them, but all questions are fair. CT Guitar Guy 85 is asking, I have a question for the panel. Stephen Greer, despite its faults, has said Lou is a disinfo agent and still operational in selling the threat narrative and the idea the government doesn't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'm going to take the fifth on it. So I don't know what you guys want to say.
I know someone who is close to Lou Elizondo who doesn't agree with the threat part, but says that he is totally genuine. He's
Well,
like a
there's a
brother.
reason for that, and then I'm going to say something about it. Lou Elizondo is a compartmentalized government agent. And when I say agent, in that he has got NDAs and he's worked for the government and he's had certain aspects of what goes on, but it's compartmentalized. He only knows what he's told. Okay. He only knows that. So he's speaking directly from the heart. He is being fed this, and now he is feeding it to others. That's expected of him. And I feel bad for the guy, I really do, because he is not 100%. He needs to do his homework. He needs to really look into this situation on his own. And I think he's afraid even to do that because he has family to protect. That's what I think.
Yes, he has been threatened. His life has been threatened.
I have to give kudos to anyone who kind of whistleblower who steps forward, because this is
Everybody with
a
the heart.
minefield.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Okay, let's see what other questions we got here. Tinian Square, Dolly, or Kathleen, could you please show your typewriter? What's that about?
My typewriter?
I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I have a computer.
Yeah.
A big screen desktop computer.
I have no more typewriter. No.
Is that one of your UFO awards I see on the dresser behind you? I think it is. All right.
Okay, that's
Anyway.
a typewriter.
That's what mine looks like too.
Okay, Polly Rotterman asks, Kathleen, what is, in your opinion, the best way to spread consciousness about this subject?
I've been doing this for many, many years. It's just talking to people. Either, I've been on shows around the world. I've spoken at conferences around the world. I've now done 57 television shows. Television shows kind of censor what you say. They don't always include everything you say. That's their right. So, but when you speak at conferences, nobody's censoring you.
Right.
That's true.
And so that's important. But just talking to people, the public.
Right.
Sometimes I even wear a UFO shirt. There's a company, Saucer X, Saucer CO.
Every little thing helps.
Something, and I wear those just to stimulate conversation. Somebody will see it and will ask about it.
All right, here's another question from Polly. Kathleen, what is disclosure for you, and how will it happen?
It's funny. I haven't been an individual who was in favor of full disclosure. I was perfectly satisfied with speaking with the interested public, not forcing this down everybody's throat. I was very sensitive about that. The only real benefit I see from disclosure is that the disinformants who have heckled my family and who have ruined so many people's lives could possibly be silenced. And at the latest hearing, they talked about the debunkers who are threatening people and that they need to do something about that.
Right. There's a lot of them. A lot.
Yeah. Well, here is not so much a question, but an interesting comment that I think we can comment on. It's from Michael Kennedy. 8 billion people on the planet using the 1 in 40 ratio, which was quoted from Hynek and very close to what the other study found, the experiencer study.
Yeah, with Bud
From the,
Hopkins and David Jacobs.
Yeah, I forget what the name of it, the polling organization.
Yeah, the Roper poll, I think.
Roper. Yeah, that's right. So that equals 200,000. That would
No, 200 million.
200 million encounters. So how common do you think this is? I guess is the question I'm getting out of this.
It's a whole lot more common than I used to think it was. But I was thinking totally differently. I didn't have the level of knowledge that I have now. Sometimes I wonder if they're sampling every living thing that they can get a hold of on this planet, since we're all endangered.
Exactly. They do. They have touched every single life on this planet. When they left, they haven't touched the new ones coming in, but they knew that would happen when they left. Every single human being on this planet has been touched by them one way or the other. And
Sure,
you have to understand, and I want to give you numbers. Okay, if you want to talk about numbers, think about this. We live in the Milky Way. Okay, we're on one of the spiral arms, just one of them. Okay, and a small part of it. Within the Milky Way, there are 250 billion possible people walking around, planets. Okay, just in the Milky Way. Look at how many galaxies are in our universe and how many more they see every single day. Start adding that up in your head. Start seeing how much life is actually walking around. These people have the ability to not need to go through conventional space to get anywhere. They go through, they have no space-time constraints. They light gate through things. They go interdimensional. The vast numbers of these excellently evolved people who are not hundreds of thousands, not even millions, but billions of years in advance of us. Our universe is very, very old, and so are they. And they've had a chance to develop and come around. We're new babies. We're newcomers here. And our egos are so big that we don't think about what that means. And yes, they have touched every life on this planet. They know who we are. We are their children. They are our progenitors. And we need to hear that message. They've told that message to many people. I'm not the only one saying it.
No, I've heard this from several contactees. There's a guy in England who says, I think every single person has had contact. Particularly the contactees who have moved beyond fear and kind of had fully conscious contact.
Right.
I've heard that a number of times for sure. Okay, let's see. Here's a couple of questions that are kind of similar. This is from Polly. Is an experiencer's hearing already needed up to this point? And is the government ready for one? And John Schaefer's is asking pretty much the same thing. Will there ever be a chance for experiencers to tell their experiences to the public? I mean, we are at conferences, but
Kathleen, would you show up at one of those? Would you come?
I do not believe that Congress will host a conference for experiencers to testify under oath.
Correct.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Nope.
Oh, it should.
But
this is the cutting edge of contact. It's not lights in the sky. No, it's so much more than that.
But you can get that at conferences.
Right.
Ancient Aliens does that sort of thing.
Would be a little bit more out there with it. I don't like one of the things that is hard to hear every time they use this terminology is ancient alien theorists believe, or they surmise or theorize. They say this or that.
It's a television show.
I know, it's annoying as hell.
They know a lot more than they'll tell the public.
Every time I heard him, he said, "When are they just going to admit that they know? Why are they walking behind the screen of ancient alien theorists say, why don't you just come out with your proof? They got plenty of it too,
Yeah.
They did. Yes.
I was on Ancient Aliens. They interviewed me for 2 or 3 hours, and I got 3 or 4 minutes on the show. It was fun. It's always important to get your, stuff out there as much as you can. But let's face it, TV is very controlled and very edited.
It is. But they're a good show to work with, in my opinion. I've been on something like 7 of their shows, and I'm going to do more because I enjoy working
They treated
with
me very
them.
well. Yeah.
Yes,
actually.
They're good people. And you know that they're not going to haul in a debunker, and they're not going to debunk what you say. They look to you as an expert, and they respect you.
Yeah, they didn't alter my testimony, which is nice, because I have had that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and some shows will do that. But Ancient Aliens is ethical.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here?
I'm sure they're controlled by government agencies that could revoke their license if they said something that was not approved. Yeah. I was doing an interview for an episode. This was last winter, last spring, and I gave some accurate information. And the producer said to me, "Do you realize what would happen if we put this on television? We can't put that statement on."
Yeah, they have censorship. Yeah. All our media and all our TV has always been censored. There have been censors from the very beginning days of all of it, but now it's even more censored. Now they have whole corporations or whole governments leaning on everybody, going, don't go there. That's sad, really sad. No open forums anymore. You can't just put it out there. It's crazy.
All right.
In the land of the free.
Let's see. I just want to put this up from Chris Clucky. We are all interdimensional. We sleep and go to different countries. We daydream. I think this is an important point because people are always trying to pinpoint, what are we dealing with here? And I'm of the mind that there are people, from other planets. I'm not sure if you've come to any assessment on the ET, the origin of the UFO phenomenon, so to speak. But I personally think they're people like us, just based on what I've been able to learn.
Different ethnicities, but they're all humanoid.
But
Our consciousness is interdimensional. Our consciousness doesn't live in space-time. Our physical body does. We're in the 3rd dimension here. People need to learn how to scientifically understand where we're at right now. Your physical body's in the 3rd dimension, and you're kind of locked in until you pass away and leave this body behind. But your consciousness is already out there. You're already an interdimensional being, and you already understand that we're on a timeline here, but there really is no such thing. All time exists simultaneously at one time. And I wish they'd teach it to 5-year-olds. They grew up understanding it way better than a lot of people do now,
But we are capable of traveling out of body.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you feel like we are dealing with biological beings?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It depends on what dimension they're from. Right.
Because Ryan Davis is bringing up an important point. I often wonder if there's multiple things we've classified as UFOs. I think this is part of the problem. A lot of stuff gets put under the UFO umbrella.
And it's not.
Jacques Vallée, who is clearly a very well-respected, excellent researcher, is, I think, kind of guilty of this. With all due respect, I love him. I love him to death. I think he's awesome. But I'm not so sure elves and fairies and gnomes and little people that are present in all cultures really belong under that term extraterrestrial.
I agree. They're non-human, but they're indigenous to this planet.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think. Because people are like, maybe they're all one thing, and this is an intelligence that's manifesting in different ways.
Well, energy can do many things. Light is they're light beings, and I would put fairies in that group. I don't think they're corporeal as you would think of a corporeal being. And we have a lot of that going on this planet. People just don't realize what they're looking at, and they try to lump it all together, and that's not true.
All right, here's another controversial question. I'm going to sidestep it, but I'll give you the opportunity. Bartleby Grinmere, I guess my question would be, what do you think of Stephen Greer's take on everything? I have respect for anyone who steps into this field, and I never disagree. I can't say that I agree with anybody completely 100%. I think he's right in that ETs are not here to hurt us. There's some things I don't agree with, what he's doing or putting forth, but I respect him as a researcher for sure.
Yeah.
We all do our best to present accurate information, but we're all human. We all make mistakes.
I used to live in Bedford, Virginia, which is right near where Greer lived. And I'm not going to get into the brass tacks of that. I avoided him when I lived up there. I've been in his presence and he didn't realize I was there publicly. I stayed away from him. Not because I don't like him or I don't believe in what he says or any of that. It has nothing to do with it. It just wasn't a place for me to introduce myself to him because I had not come out yet. Okay.
Mhm.
I was not ready to start speaking on it. And I didn't want to let him be the first person I talked to. Only reason. Now I'm sitting here from this perspective now where I'm at and what I'm talking about. I would love to have 20 minutes or 30 minutes of his time just to have a simple conversation because I don't know him. That's the point. None of us know him unless we're in his circle. We don't know the real reasons that he's talking. This is like
I've talked to him many times. I have. And he's always been very, very
kind.
kind.
On everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like until you know for yourself something, you can't speak on it. It's not fair to that person. You're talking trash about them, and that's not okay. So,
well, let's face it. Everyone in this field gets polarized a little bit and attacked. And then there's the debunkers out there and the quote researchers and huge air quotes who aren't researchers at all. So,
yeah. What's the old saying? Armchair researchers. That's a thing.
yeah, well, that happens.
Yes.
That's a dang on thing. Yeah.
And they're researching YouTube.
Yeah. Or WikiLeaks. Yeah.
All right. I think we have time for one more question from John Schaefer's Dolly. How important do you think it is to record these experiences?
Absolutely.
I think this is a good question for you too, Kathleen.
Walking around with a notebook and a pencil in their pocket or their purse. Take your
As
pick.
an experiencer and 76 now, I am concerned about getting my experiences recorded before I go. So what do you think? Is it important that we record these?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to join hands. When I say that, I literally mean we need to start talking to one another, openly talking. Write it down. Best way to remember something is to go back over it in your own mind. You almost don't need to be regressed. What you need to do is close your eyes, think about the incident, and go over it tick, 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 second by second, and write it down. What you remember, you on your own. If you feel like you've got blanks, then consider the other alternative. But until then, what you remember right now, write it down. You'll often find that you will go, oh yeah, but I forgot about this, and write that down too. It's all in your head. Put it on paper. Talk about it. Absolutely. And if it happens to you in real time, like anything that happens to you, and I mean anything, write it down. It's important.
And if you don't want to write it, dictate it.
Exactly.
Dictate it into your phone.
Or at least tell your children or your friend. Talk about it.
Or voice to text.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, Polly's mentioning the Vatican archives. I would love to know, Polly, if there's what's in there. There's been a lot of talk about that, but do any of us really even know? I bet they do know stuff. There's been a lot of reports of that.
It's like our government archives. Have you ever gone to the Library of Congress? There are huge places you're not allowed in, period. Okay, that's real. I've been there. I've tried. They have locked up a lot of stuff you will never look at. It's hidden. Why? This is our country. That's our archive. We should be able to walk in and look at it. I don't even think we should write a FOIA. They got to quit blacking stuff out. That's criminal to me. Just tell the bloody truth. Okay.
Mountain Dan says he filled out your survey, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well, we're at the end here. So do you have any few last words you'd like to share with our audience, Kathleen?
Oh my gosh. I'm writing a new book.
Oh, cool.
So I'm kind of excited about that. I don't know when I'll complete it. I keep getting asked to write other things, and so I'm helping out friends with that. But I'm writing a book on my aunt and our genetic history, the history of our family, and what made us who we are. and our attitudes. You know, I was very close to her. She was my mentor. I was like a daughter to her. I lived with her. I know a lot of things that I've never stated, and I'm going to put it into a book.
Nice. That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
I bet she would be very pleased about that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
She asked me to do it according to a psychic.
Oh,
Said that she would help me.
okay. Wow. Now I'm looking forward to that one. That's
Very
awesome.
cool. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of books here, guys, to check out from Kathleen. So please do. It's very important to support our researchers here, and Kathleen is among the best. So thank you so much, Kathleen, for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure. I love coming on with both of you. Thank you.
You know, we want you to come back. Yes.
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right.
This is always fun.
Before we go, let me give a shout out to all you guys, especially the guys who've donated the wonderfully generous super chats. Raul, thank you so much. Namaste. You guys are amazing. It helps us so much. Amy, we really, really appreciate it. Harry, Carrie, and Judy, Wilhelm, thank you, you guys. Matthews Engineering and Team Ginger, and frankly, all of you guys. You're all just so amazing. We love that you engage with us in chat. And yeah, we sometimes have a fiery conversation, but this is how we work things out. And tonight I thought was really fun. So thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Dolly.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
We came to you tonight on the beautiful UFO United Paranormal Radio Network from the beautiful city of New Orleans at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, we are on Rumble, we are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. Please look us up. If you didn't get to catch the whole show, we are still up and you can replay it anytime. If you have any questions, please write your questions in the comments at the end. We love to answer you all and keep in contact with you all. It is most interesting to me to hear what you have to say. And I know Preston absolutely, definitely, and I know Kathleen would too. You all have a wonderful week. I hope it is blessed. I hope you learn as much as you can learn, and I hope you're all safe. Mwah. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Good night.